Rollins with the heist of the century. Climb the ladder, kid. Make yourself famous.
The irresistible force meeting the immovable object.
Oscar witness, he is broken in half.
Iconic moments, unforgettable matches, memories that will last a lifetime. When it comes to professional wrestling, if you are talking about it, we are talking about it. Welcome to the Wrestle Chat Podcast with the Ant-Man.
Welcome back to another Wrestle Chat Podcast, y'all. My name is the Ant-Man, your host, joined again this week by one quarter of the Man-Child Chronicles podcast host, my friend. His name is Michael Lavin. Michael, another fun week in pro wrestling, full of lots of twists, full of lots of turns, a whole lot of fun news, too. How was it for you?
Man, super great. Excited for all the things that are going on. We have a lot to talk about. There's a lot happening in AEW. There's a lot happening in WWE leading up to Night of Champions. I say we get into it.
Let's do that. Before we jump in, though, I want to remind you that coming up on August 5th, Detroit's Ford Field is where it's all going down. It's WWE's biggest summer premium live event. You know it is SummerSlam, and we want to meet you there. In fact, we've got 2 tickets with your name on them on the lower level. There's no catch, y'all, except that you just have to sign up if you want to call that a catch. Head over to WrestleChatPodcast.com/summer. If you're watching this episode right now, it's right there on your screen at the bottom. Go to that address. It is WrestleChatPodcast.com/summer. You can sign up there. We're going to do the drawing coming up on July 1st, so you'll have plenty of time to make your plans there in Detroit. Someone's going to SummerSlam with us. It might as well be you. Go hit up WrestleChatPodcast.com/summer and get signed up today. Michael, you ready to get this week's podcast rolling?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Let's start at the beginning of the week, Monday Night Raw. Certainly none of this is in order, but let's start with a promo from Becky Lynch. Becky will be taking on Trish Stratus at Night of Champions. This match has the chance to be one that we talk about for years to come. Becky, just one day removed from Mother's Day, cut a promo on Trish after Trish called Becky's child stupid. She said this: "I am it. I have done it, made it, don't need a championship to prove it, and I will be it until I say it is over. You want it? You got it." Night of Champions, watch out. This right here could be the show stealer. What do you think?
All need to beware and all need to tremble when the man comes around. Becky Lynch is at the top of her game. Trish Stratus never stopped being at the top of her game. And what we have here is not only a clash of athletic individuals, but it is a clash of microphone wizards. What we have here is a fantastic bout, both in a verbal feud and in a physical event. I'm excited to see where this goes. I don't know who comes out on top. Is it the man or is it Stratusfaction herself, Trish Stratus? I'm excited to see what becomes of it, but it's going to be ugly either way.
All I know is you don't mess with Mama Bear's cub, and we've got a Mama Bear that is very upset right now. Next, let's hit the Battle Royal. This was to see who faced Gunther at Night of Champions. WWE has always been smart to play to their audience, and Jeddah is going to see one of their own take on Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship. Big congratulations to Mustafa Ali. What do you think about this?
Great matchup set up for Night of Champions. Mustafa Ali has had a very difficult road in the WWE since arriving on the main roster. It's been difficult to watch him struggle being booked. Few different gimmicks here and there, few different starter groups or different things like that. But what we have now is a perfect placement to start a good looking main roster run for Mustafa Ali. And what better way to do it than to set him up with the man himself right now, Gunther, the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of the modern day era, with Imperium backing him up. Now, here's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that Mustafa is going to unthrone the champion, but what I will say is I believe we're going to see a strong booking from both guys going into this match. I expect to see a banger, and I'm here all day for it.
Yeah, same here. I'm not sure that these guys are going to make it on the Night of Champions ticket, but man, they are impressive. It is a nice relaunch for one of them. It's the team of Veer and Sangha with Jinder Mahal as their advocate. It is a group called Indus Sher. What do you think about this new formation here on Monday Night Raw?
Well, let me tell you something, man. I was a huge fan of the Jinder Mahal title run from the last few years. And when we saw him enter into that space, a lot of people didn't know what to do with it because of, a little known group called the 3-Man Band. But what it was proof that when a good story is met with someone who is dedicated to this business and has a desire to do things right, great things happen. And now we get to see that come full circle with Jinder being in a manager role with Indus Sher. And boy, he looked pro, he looked wise, he looked capable. And then these two young bucks come out and just demolish this match. It was fast, it was intense, it was brutal. I am very excited to see where these guys go. And on a more expanded note, we can definitely see that there is a renewed focus on the tag team division. I think we'll get into more of that later, but this group, it's going to be awesome, and I'm ready to sit here and see what becomes of it.
Yeah, me too. As we move closer to WWE crowning a World Heavyweight Champion at Night of Champions with Seth freaking Rollins taking on AJ Styles, we then see the undisputed Universal Champion Roman Reigns set his sights on the undisputed Tag Team Championships with not the Usos, but himself and Solo Sikoa. It looked as though, with the help of the Wise Man, the Bloodline struck up a deal with Imperium to help take care of business on Sami and Kevin as they took on the Judgment Day. If Sami and Kevin do indeed retain at next Saturday's Premium Live event, who's next for these guys? Is it Judgment Day? Is it Imperium? Is it both? Are they going to ping pong between the two? What do you think?
I'm not sure. I think that remains to be seen. In just the short time that we're removed from the brand split, we don't really know how the champions are going to interact in the mix of all of this. Obviously, Kevin and Sami are still the undisputed tag team champions. So, as we've said before, we're seeing a renewed focus on the tag team division. I'm not sure if the brand split is going to hold to be true for the undisputed tag team champions. We may see them drifting between Raw and SmackDown with teams like Indus Sher and Imperium and an interesting combination of Rick Boogs and LA Knight even. And so it's a unknown territory right now, but it's interesting. And the best thing about wrestling right now that we can't say has been the same in recent years is that we don't know what's going to happen, and it's exciting, and it's going to be fun to see how it ends up.
Sure is. I think that short-lived pairing that you mentioned, Rick Boogs and LA Knight, is over. But we'll talk about that when we get to SmackDown a little bit later on. Yesterday, you guys dropped episode 69 of the Man-Child Chronicles. I had the opportunity to actually join you, Ryan, John, and Jay for a very special episode. Always love getting the chance to drop by to hang out with you guys on the podcast. And this one was indeed special.
Special is a word to describe it, that's for sure. This is a milestone episode for the Man-Child Chronicles. It's an episode that we had dreamed about, wondered about, maybe even borderline fantasized about. And to be honest, at the end of finally releasing episode 69, I'm not really sure if I can say that I enjoyed it, or if I was disappointed, or if I liked it. But all I know is that episode 69 of the Man-Child Chronicles podcast was full of fun games, colorful innuendos,
Indeed.
and
Indeed.
we played some wrestling trivia, which would be really fun for the listeners and the viewers of the Russell Chat podcast to swing on over and check out. Believe it or not, I'm not going to spoil the end, but the winner of the trivia contest might surprise you. And so definitely check out episode 69 of the Man-Child Chronicles podcast. same place you listen to the Wrestle Chat podcast.
Indeed. And speaking of trivia, last week we had Daniel Butler drop by the show. He's the designer and developer of the World Wrestling Trivia app, a fun way to pass time on your phone with all while, testing your wrestling knowledge and your fandom as well. Did you have a chance to download the app this past week?
Absolutely. The moment I found out about it, I said, I'm in, let's go.
Yeah.
I downloaded it, and I found out what I already knew, which is that I am a wrestling trivia genius. So I got in there. I got practiced up for what I knew was an inevitable battle coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, and it's time for that. It's time for that battle. Last week I challenged you to a head-to-head battle here on the show. So let's pop up the app. It's the World Wrestling Trivia app, and see how this goes. Unplanned, unrehearsed. All you got to do is go over to the app and click on it. If you go to Community, you see one at the top that says Versus Mode. And you click on that, and then it'll pair you and someone else up. I'm pretty sure that it will pair us up. There we go.
Nice.
Okay. All right, cool. Let's try this then. I'll read it and then read the options, and then we can both make our picks. Cool?
Okay.
Okay. The first one. Who eliminated Jeff Hardy in the Owen Hart Foundation men's tournament in 2022? Was it Darby Allin, Samoa Joe, Adam Cole, or Kyle O'Reilly? Who'd you pick?
I did bad. I picked Darby Allin.
I did too. I said Samoa Joe. The right answer was Adam Cole. All right, next question. What was the name of the AEW tag team FTR during their time in WWE? The Mechanics, Dash and Dawson, the Revival, or the Brainbusters? Did you get it?
I did.
You did. We both got it. The Revival. All right, next question. What was the name of the stable formed by Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Chyna, and Rick Rude in the late 1990s? Let's see. Do we need to read these? No.
Easy. Four Horsemen. No, I'm kidding.
DX. All right, the next one, number 4. Which year did Mr. McMahon win the Royal Rumble? Was it 2000, 97, 98, or 99? Wild guess for me. I got it right. What'd you say?
I thought it was 97.
I did 99. I'm one up on you. All right.
Man.
Question number 5. Who entered the ring in a milk truck and sprayed the Alliance with milk in 2001? The Rock, The Undertaker, Kurt Angle, or Edge?
Very easy.
Kurt Angle? I think so. Kurt Angle. Yes. And finish. Storage cleaner for iPhone. No, that's their ad. But I think did I beat you by 1?
I think it actually might have looked like it was going till 5. How do I get out of this?
So my score was 4 out of 5. Yours was 3 out of 5. Do you still feel like that you are a wrestling trivia genius?
Here's all I know. It is very, very clear, without a shadow of a doubt, no hesitation whatsoever, that somebody coded that app in your favor. And I think I'm going to have some words with the powers that be on getting that next and taken care of.
Good luck with that. Head over to worldwrestlingtrivia.com and you can check out more there. And be sure to download the World Wrestling Trivia app today. Appreciate those guys for being a sponsor of the Wrestle Chat podcast. Let's jump over to Dynamite from Wednesday night. Michael and I had the chance to attend as it went worldwide on TBS from the University of Texas Moody Center. Michael, this was your very first time at an AEW event. What was your overall thoughts of this show?
Overall thoughts is that rightfully so, AEW is a new kid on the block. And being the new kid on the block, you have some expectations of what it might look like. But here's what I can tell you. AEW Dynamite, live from the Moody Center in Austin, Texas, gave me a full portion of professional wrestling at its finest caliber. I have not been able to sit back in a situation like that for quite some time, just due to life, and enjoy myself and be a kid again. Being at AEW Dynamite definitely was something to run down as a fun moment that I've got to do in my life. Enjoyed it greatly. Lots of great guys on the card. We saw several great matchups, a few scary bumps as well that were a little concerned, but had a great time. Thanks to everybody at AEW for just bringing their best in everything and they do, both the athletes and producers and everybody behind the scenes. It was a fantastic experience, and I can't wait to go again.
You know, there was a huge announcement earlier in the day on Wednesday as well. AEW presents Collision, coming to TNT starting Saturday, June 17th. This will be a live show every single Saturday night, complete with a roster split. That is excluding the champions, though. Michael, are you ready for another 2 hours of live pro wrestling every week?
Here's the thing, Ant. I will never be upset about more professional wrestling in my life. In today's world with streaming services and cable television and this, that, whatever, we live in a very privileged time to be able to have access to professional wrestling like we do. However, as I said a few weeks ago here on the Wrestle Chat podcast, I am concerned that we might be on to a WCW Thunder type situation. And while there is hope based on there being, solid roster splits and everything akin to that, it's still a lot of wrestling. And don't get me wrong, I'm here for it all day long. But I am a little concerned that more does not always equal more. I'm going to find out for myself what is true and what is not.
Well, I hope the only tie to Thunder is through Thunder Rosa. She is exclusive to this show, as well as Miro, Andrade El Idolo, and still not officially announced, but anticipated, and that is CM Punk. A couple of big takeaways from Wednesday's Dynamite. Two things. People absolutely hate Don Callis, and fans absolutely love the Elite. It was opposite ends of the spectrum. Pops and boos. Opposite ends when these guys came out and had their interaction on Dynamite this week.
I'll tell you what, there is no doubt in my mind now that the two most hated men in all of professional wrestling is Dominic Mysterio and Don Callis. Because
exactly,
that room erupted in loud orchestral overtures of boos and even profanity-laced tirades at Don Callis. Rightfully so. It brings a whole new meaning to the screw job. I can tell you that right now. But it was fun to be in that environment. It was fun to see Don Callis heel up. But boy, the boos were strong with this one. Deafening for sure. I had the opportunity to talk to AEW owner and president Tony Khan on Tuesday. Clearly, he did not spill the beans for Wednesday's announcement with me. However, we did have a fun conversation, and I want to share a little bit of that with you right here on the Wrestle Chat podcast. Tony Khan on with us right now. How are you, sir? Good to have you on.
It's great being on with you, Ant-Man. Thanks for having me on the show.
Of course, I appreciate you being here. You've got an exciting week ahead. A brand new arena, big announcements. Are the butterflies starting to churn?
We're doing a huge show coming up at London Wembley Stadium this summer, August 27th. We've already sold over 60,000 tickets for over $8 million in ticket sales. It's a record for us, but certainly one of the first venues we ran in our first year of AEW, and one of the best shows we did in our first year was right there in Austin, and around Cedar Park, and that market is just really special.
Congrats on all the success of the Wembley show already. All In going on there at the end of August, like you said, over 60,000, and that was just at the on sale. You got to be getting close to the capacity of this monstrosity, this giant venue and historical venue by now, right? Should be getting
absolutely.
Close.
We keep selling tickets with over 60,000 tickets just on the first day of sales, and still counting. And it's going to be a great event, All In, and a huge event coming up later this month. One of our biggest pay-per-views, where it all began, AEW Double or Nothing.
Yeah,
May 28th. That's going to be a great show. I'm really excited for it. And I think it's going to be very fitting that we go back to where it all began for AEW, as we see so much growth, so many exciting things happening in AEW. It's going to be great to go back to Las Vegas and have a great show there.
Running back to Wembley real quick, what do you attribute the success to that particular show without any matches being announced?
I think there's a huge amount of interest in AEW all over the world, and we have great wrestlers, particularly in the UK. We have a great audience, a great TV partner over there in the UK. And I think there's just a lot of people right now watching AEW all over the world. We're on in over 150 countries worldwide, and it's allowed us to really grow the company. We started up with humble beginnings, but frankly, our first show ever was a massive success. And coming out of that, we built this great weekly series. We've been on Wednesday nights for several years now. Every Wednesday night, you can see the show on TBS. It's on at 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, but for everyone there in Austin, it's 7 p.m. Central. And I really, really love working on this show, and I really love being able to provide great matches for the wrestling fans to watch every week live in arenas and on TBS every Wednesday.
I mentioned I was talking to Mark last week, and there's, as a kid, there were two things that I was really interested in. A nuance of wrestling that I was interested in. One of them was the wrestling ring. I always wanted to know what it was made of, how it was put together, all those different types of things. And the other one had to do with belts. And in that conversation, Mark and I were talking about it. He used to make his out of duct tape, and I used to make belts out of cardboard. I made plates and everything out of them. They were stacked. They were amazing. My very first, as a 46-year-old man now, my very first replica title is an AEW championship. And I thought, I remember, I was telling him, I remember getting it, and I just had it sitting on the coffee table, and I was just staring at it. And my wife looks at me, and she's like, well, are you in love with it? I said, actually, I kind of am. Because, literally 40 years ago, 35 years ago, I was making these by hand on cardboard, and now this is a real thing sitting in front of me. What was it for you? That was a long way of asking this question, but for you, what was a nuance of the business that you loved?
Well, I really loved the matches themselves and the stories. And there's nothing better than a big match, especially when it was built up through a great rivalry. Yeah. And sometimes just a great match happening out of nowhere is a fun thing, too. It's a great mix. A wrestling card can be a blend of all kinds of great different things in one show. And to me, I grew up writing wrestling shows from a very young age. When I was really young, I would draw on little index cards all the different wrestlers and make shows out of, basically I would cut the guys out of the index cards. And long before there was an AEW, I was doing the show that way. And I've been doing a show on paper or on message boards or in email groups since 1995. Man. And since I was 12 years old, I've been writing wrestling shows as something I really love. And I've followed wrestling really close since I was about 7 years old. And I just really love it. And there's so many fans in AEW that I get to meet in the different cities every week. And I think there's all kinds of people that share that enthusiasm for wrestling. And I'm really glad with AEW that we've been able to help a lot of people tap into it. So when I hear stuff like that, what you just said, Ant-Man, saying that championship belt from AEW is a prized possession for you now, that means so much. And I really think that's exactly the kind of thing that made me want to get into the wrestling business in the first place.
Man, I really appreciate Tony taking the time to drop by the podcast this week. Certainly hope that will not be the last time. Look forward to having him back on. Before we move over to SmackDown, I want to remind you to go get signed up so you can win these WWE SummerSlam tickets. We want to meet you there. In fact, we got 2 tickets with your name on them on the lower level. There's no catch-all except that, well, you have to sign up. Head over to WrestleChatPodcast.com/summer. You can sign up right there. We'll do the drawing coming up on July 1st and give you plenty of time to make your arrangements in Detroit. Someone's going to SummerSlam with us, and it might as well be you. Go hit up WrestleChatPodcast.com/summer and get signed up today. Rumors this week after what they call the upfronts, this is where networks share shows that they're planning to feature over the next year. Well, there was no sign of any WWE programming from Fox. Now, does that mean that WWE SmackDown is moving away from Fox?
It definitely means something. I can tell you that right now. Obviously, we have contract negotiations coming up with Fox here soon. We've seen over the years that WWE has had partnerships with many different channels, many different brands. It is an interesting thing to not see them a part of the lineup. Doesn't mean they're not going to be there, but it also doesn't mean that they're going to be there. The interesting part of it is that we noticed a significant improvement in the product from visual standpoint, from a production standpoint, with that Fox and Fox support. And so what does it mean if in a world WWE doesn't re-sign with Fox, or with more importantly, or more specifically, if Fox doesn't re-sign with WWE? How does that affect the product? How does that affect the way everything looks? Only time will tell.
You know, I wonder with the pairing of WWE and UFC, we don't see something either on ESPN or possibly ABC. That could be a huge move for both WWE and whatever network that they could be going to. Those are just rumors right now, just speculation. Nothing may change. We may see it every Friday night on Fox for years and years to come. And we did see that last night. In fact, SmackDown this week led off by the Tribal Chief Roman Reigns. He was quickly interrupted by Sami and Kevin. And Sami claimed that not only were he and Kevin better than Roman and Solo, but the Usos were better than Roman and Solo as well. Strong words, though, where Roman was in the middle of responding. Sami and Kevin got attacked by Jimmy and Jay, much to the dissatisfaction of Roman. Michael, are you starting to feel like things are beginning to unravel a little bit for the Tribal Chief?
I would not say not unravel. Here's what I will tell you. The Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns, is an onion. And let me tell you why. There are layers and layers and layers to that man that we continue to see every week. This week, the layer we got to see is frustrated, put out, and borderline angry Tribal Chief. And what this is a beautiful continuation of this amazing The Bloodline, where you see Roman kind of getting to the end of his rope with the Usos. The interesting thing to see will be, is blood thicker than water still? Is Roman Reigns ready to dismiss the Usos for the inconvenience they are to him? We don't know, but it was a great continuation of an already fantastic story. The Tribal Chief is upset, and it's going to happen. We're just going to have to wait what that is.
Well, a guy named Grayson Waller was called up from NXT during the draft, and this week we saw the debut of his popular Grayson Waller Effect, a talk show featuring Grayson and a guest. And this week's guest was AJ Styles, and during this segment, they had tweets scrolling across the bottom of the screen. There were two in particular that were noticeable due to the lack of a normal username. In fact, I think the user was like 127589, something like that. And they had two tweets on there. One of them said, "The end is near," and the other one said, "TikTok." Remember, TikTok is a phrase that Karrion Kross uses. It looks like maybe a tease for Karrion, keying in on his next victim. But who would it be, AJ or Grayson? We found out later in the show that he indeed was keying in on AJ Styles by revealing AJ's tarot card. Now, what does that mean for the World Championship match at Night of Champions? Does it have anything to do with that at all? I love the way they're building to each of Karrion's rivals, though. What are you thinking here?
Great stuff, Karrion Kross. I feel like we got him booked properly now. You know, whatever version on the Spartan Farouk rehash that we saw on the first visit, Karrion Kross was not what we needed, but this version of Karrion Kross,
I'd almost forgotten about that, and you brought it back. I almost got that out of my mind. Yeah. Dang.
We finally landed on the groove that Karrion Kross needed. What I love about this scenario is the complexity that it adds to something even outside of a direct with Karrion Kross. Here, as you've pointed out, most of us who follow wrestling news see that Seth Rollins has been away filming a new role for the Marvel Universe. So there's a lot that says, well, maybe they'll put the strap on AJ since Seth maybe transitioning to Hollywood. Who knows? But
Maybe.
And on the other side of the coin, we see Karrion Kross targeting AJ Styles just 1 week before Night of Champions. And this is a very complex and touch and go situation that is what professional wrestling is all about. One of the best I can say and repeat over and over again. I don't know what is going to happen in the next scenario. And as a fan, that's the best place to be.
Yep, I agree. The main event saw the Usos taking on LWO's Mysterio and Escobar, but on the way to the ring, the wise man, Paul Heyman, tracked the Usos down to tell them that Roman forgave them. Does any part of that statement from Paul Heyman seem genuine to you at all?
That is the big goose egg for me, and the big goose egg.
Yep, same for me. After Kevin and Sami interfered in that match, the Usos lost, much to the disgust of the tribal chief. We couldn't hear what he said at the end because the mic wasn't turned up, but we know whatever he said wasn't pleasant, and it ended with them shaking their head, at least Roman Reigns shaking his head as it went off the air. Man, the story still has so much to it, and I wonder what's going to happen at Night of Champions, and I think that's exactly where WWE wants us, wondering what's going to happen next.
Absolutely. This is a setup that is intertwining multiple storylines into one.
Yeah.
We've got the ramifications of the tag team division we've already discussed previous in the show. We've got what might appear as cracks forming in the bloodline. We also have a relationship with Kevin and Sami that Sam has just been recently rekindled. But what happens when it gets put under stress? Not only that, we have Roman taking a break from defending the undisputed Universal WWE Championship against other competitors and stepping into the tag team division.
Right.
Multiple layers to this whole situation. And dare I say it might be explosive. But we'll have to wait and see.
And something that could continue all the way to SummerSlam and maybe even beyond. We have no idea. We just know that some things are going to happen at Night of Champions. Looking forward to that next Saturday. I believe it's 12 Central, so you could check out this podcast and lead right in. We could be your pre-show next week for Night of Champions, or maybe they should change the name. Maybe it should just be a Day of Champions here for us in America. But that will be coming to us from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Night of Champions next Saturday. And we'll be here again next Saturday. We drop this episode at 10 a.m. every Saturday morning. Regardless of when you listen to it, we want to say thank you. If you listen, appreciate you doing that. Continue doing that and subscribe. If you haven't checked us out on YouTube yet, go over there and check that out, and you can see our pretty faces on the screen as well. It's just Wrestle Chat Podcast on YouTube. And if you're on there too, you can scroll down and see the other channels that we have. One of those is the Man-Child Chronicles, coming soon to video, but right now you can check out the shorts that are up there and get a little taste of other episodes of the Man-Child Chronicles. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us again this week. Michael, thank you for joining me again this week. Always good to have you on.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you guys next week on the Wrestle Chat Podcast.